about making inferences using text and gaining deeper meaning using those inferences. But before we start, I'm going to give you a real life example of what an inference is. So earlier on this month, our family went to the ocean. We took a trip to the ocean, and we were on an island, and we saw a pool full of sharks in the ocean. And later on that week, my younger sister and I, we decided to go swimming. And we were swimming out in the deeper end, and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, my sister grabbed me on the arm, and she goes, "There's something dark in the water." And so I immediately thought it was a shark. And so I screamed like a little girl, and I frantically started swimming back to the shore. And my younger sister leaned over to me, and she goes, "It wasn't." I was like, "Was that a shark?" And she leaned over to me, she's like, "I don't think it was a shark. I have no idea what it was." And so we kind of looked back in the water where we were, and we realized it was actually just this dark rock that was sitting in the deep end. But I thought it was a shark. So that's an example of an inference when I thought it was a shark. So how or why did I make that inference? Does anyone want to get Kelly?
Maybe like because you had seen sharks earlier that week.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd seen sharks earlier that week, so my previous experiences led me to thinking that it was a shark. What else? Yeah, Victoria.
Maybe the feeling and the idea of the darkness kind of plagued you throughout the week. And you kind of imagine what that would feel like, and so even if it wasn't exactly what you imagined, you kind of jumped to that conclusion.
Yeah, so like the context. So I had different contextual clues, right? So Caroline grabbed me on the arm. She kind of gave me this like fearful look. And she also said that there was this large dark thing in the water. So I automatically jumped to thinking that it was a shark. So when we're using text, there's two different pieces that we can use. There's kind of an equation to it. There's text clues and there's background knowledge. And that's what we use to make an inference. So like in the previous story, I used contextual clues and my previous experiences with shark earlier in that week to kind of make an inference about the situation. And I'm going to model that here in this short story. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use a method. It's called turning up the volume in your head. And we're having a conversation with the author. So I'm going to go through this text and I'm going to kind of ask questions and trying to gain meaning, read between the lines to see what the author is really trying to tell me. I'm going to look for clues and think about background knowledge. And then I'm also going to reevaluate past inferences that I read in the text. Like in the previous story, I thought that it was a shark. The first inference that I made, I thought that it was a shark, but I went back and I realized that that wasn't exactly true by looking later on. So we're going to see that later on in the story. So this one's called The Custodian. I'll start here. The job would get boring if you didn't mix it up a little. Like this woman in 14A, the nurses called her Mockingbird. Start any song and this old lady would sing it through. So some interesting things here when I'm trying to figure out the setting and what's going on. We know from it's the perspective of the custodian up here by the title. And when we're looking here at 14A, the nurses. So it might be in the room. There's nurses, so it might be in a hospital, but we know that we're talking about an old lady. So maybe it's at an old retirement home, maybe, or a nursing home. And when I look at this term mockingbird, that's kind of interesting to me. So what I know about mockingbirds, I know that they mock other birds, or they imitate other birds, from what I already know. So reading on, she sings any song through. So I'm curious about that. I'm wondering why she's singing. Couldn't speak, couldn't eat a lick of food, so not a lick, she wouldn't eat anything, but she sang like a house on fire. That's kind of an interesting term, right? So when I think of a house on fire, I think of kind of like a large structure that's kind of like crackling. That might have to do with the old woman's voice, maybe. That's an inference I'm making. And maybe extravagant and loud. So what I just did there, I turned up the volume in my head. I was interacting with the text. I was using clues when I looked at the song, when I looked at the old lady, when I looked at the term mockingbird, and I used previous knowledge that I already know. So what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to have you evaluate the text on your own. You can do it with a partner or by yourself. And I'm going to have you do these three things. But before we start, I'm going to have you guys humor me and see if you'll sing a song with me. You guys good for it?
Yep.
Okay, it's to the tune Sugar. Okay, ready? We're going to have to start low because Adam Levine's pretty high. Okay. To make an inference, let's break it down. Turn up the volume in your head now. See what the author is telling you. What do we use when we haven't got a clue? Text clues! Yes, please! What other things will we need to gain meaning while we read? We'll need background